The boots were broken, imperfectly polished but creased, shaped by years of wear across hot deserts and foreign cities. They struck the sidewalk with quiet rhythm as Joaquin Rivera made his way home, uniform still crisp from the memorial service. Bronze stars and combat ribbons lay across his chest, but out here, it felt more like decorations on borrowed armor. The sun had just dipped behind the houses, leaving long shadows across the cul-de-sac. Lawns were manicured, sprinklers hissed. Wind chimes sang quietly in the breeze. It should have felt like peace, but instead, the silence gnawed at him. He adjusted the folded program tucked under his arm. Lt. Darren Cole, age 23. He'd given the eulogy. He'd stood tall, commanded a crowd, then left unnoticed, alone. Now walking these streets, his own neighborhood, he felt the weight of eyes. The way curtains shifted. A dog's bark turned sharp. Unspoken question. Who is he, and why is he here? He passed a row of children drawing with chalk on the driveway. One looked up, wide-eyed at his uniform. Joaquin gave a small smile. The child said nothing. Their mother called them inside. His feet hurt, but he didn't limp. Not here, not in uniform. As he neared the corner, a low engine rumbled behind him. The sound was too deliberate, too slow. He glanced back, black-hand white cruiser. A patrol unit. He kept walking. Evening, came a voice from the driver's side window. Joaquin nodded politely. Evening, officer. The car didn't move. A second later, it crept forward and pulled up alongside him. The passenger door opened. You live around here? The officer stepped out, voice tight. I do, Joaquin said calmly. ID's in my don't reach, the other officer barked, already out of the car. Hands hovered over holsters. A flashlight beam cut into his face. I'm just getting my wallet, he started, slowing his movements, hands where we can see them. The voice snapped, louder now. Joaquin froze. Muscle memory screamed at him to explain, de-escalate, remain calm. But another part of him, the darker, tired part, knew exactly what was coming. A neighbor's porch light flicked on. Somewhere, a phone camera lifted. The boots that had carried him through wars across continents, through hell and back, suddenly felt heavy. And then came footsteps. Fast. From behind the footsteps came fast. Gravel crunching behind him, Joaquin barely turned before arms collided with his back, sending him forward. Knees slammed the concrete. A rough hand gripped his shoulder. Another wrenched his wrist behind him. Stop resisting, one of them yelled. I'm not resisting, Joaquin shouted, breath caught in his throat. I'm reaching for my ID. A knee pressed into his spine. His cheek scraped the pavement. A warm trickle slid down his face, blood or maybe sweat. He couldn't tell ID, huh? Said one of the officers, tone mocking. Where's the weapon? Joaquin hissed through clenched teeth. I'm an army chief. Retired. My identification, a hand tore open his. Jacket, metals clinking? Yeah? You think this is Halloween? You think dressing up makes you special? The other officer chimed in. Looks like a setup to me. Probably stolen. The cuffs bit into his wrists. Cold, unyielding steel. His uniform whence. A symbol of duty and sacrifice was now a costume in their eyes. The pressure on his back increased. He couldn't breathe right. I served this country, he managed. And now you're serving time, one muttered. A crowd had gathered. Distant voices, the sound of a baby crying, the buzz of a phone vibrating against wood. Somewhere to the left, a porch light flickered. A young woman stood completely still, holding up her phone, recording. She didn't speak, her brown eyes locked on Joaquin, her face unreadable.
Later.
He'd learned her name was Layla. He tried to focus, but the concrete felt hotter now. It pulled him somewhere else. Iraq, 2005. A Humvee flipped. Fire, screaming. Joaquin pulling Private Mendez from the wreckage. Afghanistan, 2008. 6 folded flags. One knock on a door he'd never forget. A mother collapsing into his arms. Kansas, 2012. A welcome home parade. Banners, hugs, and still. Eyes that didn't trust the color of his skin beneath the stars on his shoulder. He was here. Now pinned, misread, flattened. "Run him through the system," one officer barked. "He's dirty, I guarantee it." Pause. Then quietly, almost disappointed, "No warrants. No record. Get him in the car. We'll sort it out downtown." The world tilted as they hoisted him up. Couldn't feel his arms. The cuffs dug deeper. His metals clinked again, mocking echoes as they pushed him into the back seat. His eyes met Leela's once more. She still hadn't moved. Just watched. Watched everything. And she wasn't the only one. Across the street, a second phone had come. "Out," a voice whispered into a call. "He's a vet. I know him. This ain't right." The cruiser door slammed shut. The cruiser rattled over potholes as they neared the precinct. Joaquin stared out the window, wrists still cuffed, pain blooming in his shoulders. His heart had settled into a heavy, disbelieving thud. Less fear. Now, more stunned silence. The weight of humiliation was worse than the steel around his wrists. Inside the station, fluorescent lights hummed overhead. He was led past a wall of officers who barely looked up. They took his name, Joaquin Miguel Rivera, and keyed it in with casual disinterest. "Run him through." One officer muttered, cracking his neck. He sat, jaw clenched, as fingers danced. Across a keyboard behind the desk, then a pause. Longer than usual. Sarge." The young officer squinted at the screen. I think something's off." "What?" the sergeant barked. "This guy's name Rivera's on a warrant. But not for him. From him." The sergeant leaned in, his brow furrowed. "It's a military file. Classified header. Army SID. Warrant for narcotics trafficking. Signed by Chief Warrant Officer Joaquin Rivera." They both looked up at him now. As if seeing him for the first time, Joaquin said nothing. He waited for the apology, the release. The moment reason would return. It didn't. "Put him in holding," the sergeant ordered. "But he's not, until we verify everything. No press, no paper trail. You hear me?" Joaquin was led down a dim hallway, the echo of boots bouncing off cinder block walls. The holding cells stank of sweat and despair. Two men already sat inside, one with his head down, the other watching, alert and still. He was pushed in. The door clanked shut. The alert one raised an eyebrow. Young, early 20s maybe? Tall, with dark skin and sharp eyes that had seen more than they should. After a long silence, the young man spoke. "You're the guy from the news, the uniform." Joaquin nodded slightly, back aching as he eased onto the bench. "Didn't think." "They'd do you like that," the young man said. "Figured the medals came with immunity." "They don't," Joaquin replied. "Not when your skin still counts against you." The young man let out a dry laugh. "Ain't that the truth?" Pause. "I'm Devin," he said, then added, with grim humor, "career criminal, according to every badge I meet. You, Chief Warrant Officer Joaquin Rivera, retired." Devin leaned back, staring at the ceiling. "You wore the stars. I wore the scars. Still landed here." Those words pierced deeper than the handcuffs had Joaquin studied the cell, the cracked floor tiles. The peeling paint, the silence, all of it soaked in stories like theirs, unheard, unseen. He closed his eyes for a moment, tried to find the discipline that used to keep him centered. But all he found was weight layers of it. Somewhere down the hallway, a phone rang. Urgent voices followed. They were starting to piece things together. But still, no one came for him. The sound of the phone down the hall grew louder, rings clipped by hurried hands, followed by murmured voices, clipped footsteps, and then silence. Something was happening. Joaquin could feel it in the shift of energy, the sudden weight in the air. Devin looked up from the bench beside him, sensing it too. Minutes passed. Then the steel door creaked open. "Rivera," an officer said stiffly, avoiding his eyes. "Let's go." No explanation, no acknowledgement. Just a command. As Joaquin stood, Devin gave him a nod, half salute, half respect. "Guess someone finally looked up your name," he said. Joaquin offered a small, tired nod back. It still took too long. He was led down a different hallway this time. Cleaner, quieter, past rooms with dark glass and closed doors. Inside one of them, behind frosted glass, voices were rising, panicked, not apologetic, kind of fear that came. From PR fallout, not moral reckoning, inside the conference room. It's Sarah Ames stood silently, arms crossed, watching it all unfold. She was in her early 40s, uniform immaculate, eyes sharp but uneasy. A good officer, many said. Quiet, competent. But now, she stood still, as others argued. We need to clean this up before it hits national, the precinct captain barked. He's not just military, he said. Do you have any idea what kind of storm this brings? The video's already out, another said, throwing a tablet onto the table. It's everywhere. She tagged local news. #Army, chief arrested. Ames glanced at the screen. Leila's video played on loop. Joaquin, thrown to the pavement, cuffed, uniform crumpled beneath a knee. The caption read, "This is how America treats its veterans if they're brown. Do we issue a statement?" Someone asked. No. Quiet release, the captain snapped. No paper trail, no record of detainment, and Rivera. Ames asked, voice low. He's free to go. Nothing happened? Understood? Ames didn't reply. Just nodded once. Moments. Later, Joaquin was handed his belongings in a plastic bag, his ID, wallet, a bent medal. No apology, no explanation. Just a form to sign that would never be filed. He stepped outside into the late-night air. It was colder now, the streets quieter, the damage louder. As he walked, he pulled his uniform straight, brushing off dirt that didn't come off. With each step, the sidewalk felt heavier beneath him, every crack a reminder. He passed the local VFW hall, its windows dark, its flag. At half-mast for the soldier he'd spoken for just hours earlier, a bronze wall outside bore the names of veterans from the city, etched with pride meant to last. Joaquin slowed as he found his own. Rivera, JM U.S. Army. He stared at it for a long moment. The metal gleamed under the yellow streetlight. But to him it looked like shadow. Behind him, a car slowed. Inside, someone recognized his face from the video? No. Then the car moved on. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Messages piling up. Calls from reporters, friends, commanders, and one from an unknown number. With a single line of text, I want to help you tell the truth. Leila, he kept walking, heart heavy, boots steady. He no longer wore the uniform for them. He wore it for himself. The message had sat unopened for hours. Joaquin stared at it while his coffee went cold, the sunlight spilling across his kitchen floor like an accusation. He hadn't left the house since his release. The uniform still hung in the hallway, stiff with dried sweat and street dust. It hadn't been cleaned, neither had he. He finally tapped the screen. I want to help you. Tell the truth. Leila, he remembered her from the sidewalk, the stillness, the gaze, the phone held with steady hands. She hadn't flinched when everyone else had turned away. Curiosity, or maybe something deeper, moved his fingers. He responded, Meet me at Veterans Hall. Noon. She arrived early. Lila was younger than he expected. Late 20s. Died. Back messenger bag slung across her chest. She wore no makeup, no pretense, just presence. When she spoke, her voice held the kind of clarity that made people stop and listen. I'm in my second year at Loyola Law, she said, taking a seat across from him in the quiet meeting room. My father was deported when I was 13. My mother cleaned houses in this zip code for 20 years. I record what others ignore. You recorded me, Joaquin replied, not accusing, just stating. I recorded the truth, she said softly. The world needed to see what they did to you, he exhaled, long and slow. I didn't serve to make noise. I served to protect. But now silence is protecting them, she said. Not you, not Devin, not anyone else they'll throw on the ground next week. His eyes flickered. Devin. She pulled out her phone and opened a news alert. They denied him bail. Again, possession charge, no evidence submitted. Still sitting in there. Something in Joaquin's chest tightened. A flash of the cell. Of Devin's eyes. You're not just a victim, Leila continued. You're a witness. And your words carry weight. If you speak, others will stand with you. Joaquin looked down at his hands. Scarred knuckles, old burns. His fingers curled, slightly, as if remembering how to hold a pen or a rifle or the oath. He saw himself 25 years earlier, standing on a rain-soaked parade ground, right hand raised, eyes steady as he said, "I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic." He had meant it, still did. But maybe now the enemy wasn't on another shore. Maybe it was here in the silence. The fear, the system that erased names but never skin. He opened his laptop and stared at the blinking cursor. "Where do we begin?" he asked. Leela smiled, just a little, with the truth. Outside, the wind rustled the flag above the hall. Inside, the first words of a statement began to take shape. The chamber was too bright. Ceiling lights buzzed faintly overhead, casting a sterile glare across the polished wood of the city oversight hearing room. Rows of chairs held reporters, veterans, community leaders, and a few quiet officers in uniform. At the front, the panel sat behind nameplates and microphones. Their expressions tight and unreadable, Joaquin sat alone at the witness table, the city seal gleaming on the wall. Behind him, a pitcher of water, a stack of statements. The truth, heavy in his chest. The chair of the Oversight Committee leaned into her mic. "Chief Rivera, you may proceed." He adjusted the mic with slow, practiced hands. "Thank you." He didn't. Read from the page. "I served this country for 26 years, he began, voice steady, deep with quiet authority. "I've worn this uniform through war, through funerals, through parades and protests. I've bled for it, buried friends under it. And last week, I was pinned to a sidewalk in it because, to officers, I wasn't a veteran. I was a threat." Murmurs rippled through the room. Cameras clicked. "They didn't see my name," he continued. "They saw my skin." He paused. Let the silence stretch. This isn't just about a bad call. This is about a pattern. Because even in uniform, I've been followed in stores, denied loans, pulled over more times than I can count. Told I don't look like a Joaquin, and every time, I swallowed it because I thought if I served hard enough, bled long enough, I'd earn the right to be seen. He leaned forward. "But you salute me when I'm a symbol. You shackle me when I'm a man." Collective inhale swept through the gallery. Someone wiped away a tear. Others sat stone still. Stunned, he reached into his folder and pulled out a document. "This is Devin Johnson's record," he said. 23, no priors. Still in holding for a charge no one can explain. He was in the same cell I was thrown into without cause. We like to say justice is blind. But Devin's still there because he's not." On the far side of the room, LT, Sarah Ames watched. Her posture was tight, fingers laced in her lap. She had signed off on the arrest log. She hadn't questioned it. Now shame curled at the corners of her eyes. A panelist cleared her throat. "Chief Rivera, you've named the officers involved. Are you requesting formal disciplinary action?" "Requesting accountability," Joaquin said. "Not just for me. For everyone who doesn't get a hearing, a headline, or a voice." The room fell silent. He took a sip of water. The sound of the glass returning to the table echoed louder than it should have. The chair leaned in again. "Your statement has been recorded. The panel will deliberate and recommend actions within 10 business days." Joaquin nodded. "Thank you." He stood. As he turned to leave, a flashbulb went off. Then another. But the loudest thing in the room was still the silence. Layla met him at the exit, hand on her laptop, eyes locked on his. "You did it," she said. He nodded once, but didn't smile. "We're not done," he replied. "Not yet." The press conference was held in the heart of the community, an old basketball gym converted for city functions. Folding chairs lined the hardwood floor, and banners hung from the rafters in red, white, and blue. But this wasn't about patriotism. It was about change. The mayor stood at the podium, flanked by council members, faith leaders, and veterans. Joaquin sat in the front row, Lila beside him. her fingers wrapped around a notepad scribbled with amendments and language sheet. Helped draft. Devin stood nearby in a fitted blazer and fresh sneakers, his mother's hand clutched in his. "We stand here today to announce the introduction of the Rivera Bill," the mayor said, voice steady. "This legislation will implement racial sensitivity training, civilian oversight for officer misconduct, and mandatory accountability reviews for arrests made without cause. It is a beginning, one that came from pain, but leads toward healing." Applause broke out, rising like a tide. Cameras flashed. Joaquin's name was chanted in pockets of the crowd, but he didn't stand. He remained seated, hands folded, eyes forward. This wasn't about glory. It was about honoring a responsibility he could no longer ignore. Later, outside in the cool breeze, Devin approached him. "You good?" he asked. Joaquin turned to him, then smiled, gentle warn. "But real? Better now that you're out." "They wanted me to speak today," Devin added, hands in his pockets. "I told him no. Not yet. But someday. We'll know when it's time," Joaquin said. Across town, an open letter had just gone live. From LT Sarah Ames. "To the community I failed." She had resigned that morning, citing a reckoning with silence. She wrote about complicity, regret, and finally, truth. Her words didn't fix everything, but they mattered. And the video, that 2-minute clip Leela had captured, was now part of state training modules for new cadets. 2 weeks later, Joaquin stood in front of a group of high school JROTC students in pressed uniforms. They fidgeted in their seats, unsure whether to treat him like a war hero or a cautionary tale. He let the room settle before he spoke. "When I was your age," he began, "I thought the uniform would protect me from everything. I thought if I served hard enough, earned enough, bled enough, they'd see me as more than a name." He looked out at them. Latino, black, Asian, white-wide eyes and silent curiosity. "They didn't, not always, but I kept wearing it anyway, because it reminded me who I wanted to be." A student raised her hand. "Sir, do you still wear it?" Joaquin paused, then smiled, not bitter this time, but sure. "I wore the uniform," he said, voice low, resonant. "But now I wear my name." The room went quiet, and one by one they stood. Not for a salute, not out of formality, but in respect for a man who had chosen legacy over silence. Outside, the wind caught the flag on the school's front lawn. This time, it felt like it was waving for everyone.